This video is instruction on completing the RP8 step of the research paper process. Please remember there are 9 steps prior to the final step, so we're almost finished. That should give us a good feeling, those of us that have been keeping up. So at any rate, what we're going to do here is we're going to add a works cited page, and we're going to do a little bit of editing personally. Again, I think this is one of those things where the instructions will take longer than the process, but do pay attention to it so we make sure we do it right. We want to make sure of 4 things when we're creating our works cited page. Number 1, that all internal citations or parenthetical citations have a source on the works cited page. All sources on the works cited page must refer to internal citation. So that if I find an internal citation or a parenthetical citation in your paper, I can go to your works cited page and find it. If I find a source on your works cited page, I can go back to your paper and find out where you used it. You will not be including all of your sources on your works cited page. All sources on the works cited page need to be arranged in alphabetical order by the first important word in the MLA information. And all internal citations need to be that first important word. There have been a lot of errors on number 4, so make sure that we have that one right. Now, let's go ahead and get the job done here. We're going to open a number of our research paper documents. I want you to open RP1. In most cases, that will have all of your sources on it. I also want you to open up RP4, because if you have added a source, it will appear on RP4. And then I want you to open up RP7, which is the last document we did, and then create a new document. We're going to call that RP8. And then what we're going to do is we are going to, as usual, we're going to go back to RP7. We're going to go to Edit. We're going to click Select All. We're going to hold down the Control key. We're going to tap the C key. We're then going to go to RP8, and we're going to hold down the V key. We're going to hold down the Control key, tap the V key, and that's going to put our paper there. Now the next thing I want us to do is I want us to create a page break so that we start the works cited page on a brand new page. So put your cursor at the very end of your paper and go up to Insert and then click on Page Break. So what this means is that you're going to start your works cited page on a brand new page. If you change your paper, which you're likely to do over the next couple of days, it's not going to move the works cited page at all. So let's title the works cited page first, and we will entitle it Works Cited. And then what we want to do is we want to center it. So we're going to go up here to More. We're going to click on Center Justification. That will move it to the center. And then we're going to tap the Return key, and then we're going to left justify everything else. So now we need to move our sources onto the works cited page. So I'm going to go to the top here, and my first source is trout. So I'm now going to go back to RP1 to find trout. And there is trout. So I'm going to highlight trout, and I'm going to hold down the Control key, tap the C key, go back to RP8, go down to the works cited page, hold down the Control key, tap the V key, and we now have trout in there. Hit the return button to give yourself a little bit of space, and then we're going to go back up to the top of the document. We're going to go down. So here's trout. We have that one. What's our next one? That looks like feature. So we're going to go back to RP1 to find feature. There is feature. We're going to copy the MLA. We're going to hold down Control. We're going to tap C. We're going to go back to RP8. We're going to scroll down and we are going to hold down Control and tap V, and now feature is in there. Hit the Enter key a couple of times to give us space. Go back up to the paper, and there's Trout. There is feature, and now we go down to the next paragraph, and that has Chickamascolo in it. We're going to go back to RP1. And whoops, there's no Chickamascolo there, so I'm assuming I added that later. I'm going to go to RP4, and lo and behold, there's Chickamascolo. Highlight it, hold down Control C, go back to RP8, go down to, RP8, go down to the Works Cited page, hold down Control, tap V. Now, if you remember our list of 4 things, one thing we have to make sure of is that these are in alphabetical order. So the first one in the alphabet is Chickamascolo, so I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to hold down Control. I'm going to tap X now so that I cut it. And then I'm going to, again, giving myself a little space at the top, hit Control V, there's Chickamascolo. So the next one now should be this one called Feature. And so I'm going to highlight that, Control X, and then I'm going to put that in here, Control V. So now we have everything in the proper order. Now the one thing we don't have is we don't have it using the proper typeface, nor do we have the proper, we don't have the proper typeface. So we'll highlight everything. We go up to Format, we go up to our typefaces. We click on Courier New. Everything should turn into Courier New. It didn't, so we lost our highlighting. Highlight everything. Click here, click Courier New. Everything is Courier New. Go over here so we get it the right size. Click 12, and that's good. Now, I want you to make sure that at this point we now have to do our hanging indentation. So make sure, go to View, and make sure that Show Ruler is checked. If it is, then you'll be able to do this step. We do have Show Ruler checked here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to the second line. Now notice that there is a triangle and a rectangle. I'm going to move this over to that line, and now I'm going to put the cursor on the first line, and I'm going to move the rectangle back, and so now that is hanging. Now I'm going to highlight the second source. Again, I'm going to move this over to the first line, and I'm then going to go up to the rectangle and drag it back to where it was before, and so now that one is hanging. And now we are going to do the same thing with our last source. We are going to put the cursor on the second line. We're going to click on the triangle, drag it over, and we're going to go up to the rectangle and drag it back. And now that is hanging. So now our line spacing is off, so let's put the cursor there and hit delete so that we have everything right up against it, everything else on the page. Let's highlight the entire page. We want to go to Format, we want to go to Line Spacing, we want to go to Double, and so it looks like everything is fine except we have an extra space right here. So we put the cursor there, we hit the delete key, and everything is fine. So now we have a very good Works Cited page. And so the paper again is still looking pretty good. Now I'm going to go back and see if I find anything that I want to correct. Now, this last sentence I really don't like, and a couple of classes I've already mentioned this in, but the entire paper has been in the third person, and all of a sudden here I'm in the first. So we need to change that to the third person. So I'm going to change that to action must be taken to improve the health of the nation's youth. So I'm going to type that in. Action must be taken to improve the health of the nation's youth. Period. And then I'm going to have to go back here and take care of my spelling issue. So I'm going to put in an L there. That's good. Now let's go up here a little bit more. I think I found something else. If we go to the first body paragraph, physical education should be considered as important as other subjects. And then I go into a quotation without something to lead into that quotation. So what I'm going to do now is I have to figure out a way to have that smooth out a bit. So I'm going to go back to RP1 so that I can identify that, and that is this feature one. And so this is the one about Vietnam. So I'm going back to RP8. Whoops, I'm going to go back to RP1 so I can cite the source. Xinhua News. So I'm going to want to mention that, and I might even mention Vietnam. So we go back to RP8 and we type in Xinhua News reports that this phenomenon takes place even in Vietnam. Period, space. Now it looks like this is badly misspelled, so I'm going to right click on that, and my goodness, there's a good spelling, so I'm going to put that in there. And that is good. So that is pretty much RP8. I've made some adjustments in it. I've added the works cited page, and so in many ways this paper is ready to go. I hope that has been helpful.